Dina Jolie here, aka SirenbellaSays. Welcome back to my goddamn channel. If you watched yesterday's video, you saw me apply one of the original Covergirl foundation formulas, the Clean Matte Liquid Foundation. As I was applying it, I was immediately jolted by the smell. I'm like, I know this smell. Lo and behold, it reminded me of the smell of Noxzema. Now, I first applied this foundation, maybe not this exact formula, but a CoverGirl foundation in the same bottle in the late 1980s when I was in junior high. And the smell reminded me of a skincare cleanser that I used to use that would burn the crap out of my eyes. And I was like, shit, it's Noxzema. So this prompted my curiosity, and I was like, is it possible that there's Noxzema inside the foundation? The next day, I started doing some Googling, and lo and behold, I discovered that CoverGirl Cosmetics was formed by the Noxzema group. And yes, the original foundation did have Noxzema in it. CoverGirl was the first cosmetics company in the United States to launch a foundation line that incorporated skincare benefits with coverage. So in today's video, we're going to take a brief walk down the history of CoverGirl Cosmetics. We're going to learn about who founded it, a little bit about their mission statement, who their target audience was, and kind of a comparison with the products that they're launching today, as well as some of their marketing strategies. So if you're interested, make sure to stick around, click that subscribe button, and let's begin. In the 1950s, once upon a time, in Baltimore, Maryland, which is about 20 minutes north of here, there was a company called the Chemical Company of Baltimore. And they produced, you guessed it, skincare products, most noted for Noxzema. Noxzema was the first face wash I ever used. The board members decided they wanted to diversify. They wanted to appeal to a larger swath of the national audience, more specifically, teenage girls and young women. So they decided they wanted to branch out into women's cosmetics. And this is when they formulated a liquid makeup, aka foundation, along with a pressed powder, what they then called a compressed powder. In order to realize their vision, they needed to hire individuals who would focus on branding, marketing, advertising, and the board members decided that the best way to reach their target audience was through print media and, more specifically, television advertising. So there was a man named Raymond Sullivan, more specifically Raymond F. Sullivan. And he had a secretary named Mary Ayers, and I'm going to try to insert their very lovely photograph. So they were instrumental in the creation of none other than CoverGirl. They were the ones who spearheaded the creative and logistical efforts to corner the women's cosmetics market. And they knew that print advertising, not only just print advertising, but they realized that the best way to create interest in their new liquid makeup and compressed powder was to use the images of young, very pretty, white models. And in addition to using models, this would be the start of using notable celebrities to market their brands. If you go back and you Google CoverGirl ad campaigns, you will see a number of very recognizable faces. Raymond F. Sullivan was a member of the Noxzema Chemical Company board, And he was also the founder of what would become a super successful advertising agency named Sullivan, Stauffer, Caldwell, and Bales, otherwise referred to as SSC&B. Sullivan would later become the account supervisor for Noxzema. And it is said that Sullivan and his secretary Ayers were the ones who worked most closely with Noxzema in the 1950s. The rise in popularity of CoverGirl cosmetics has oftentimes been referred to as an overnight success. Women all across the country were excited with the idea of using a liquid product that would also have skincare benefits. Original CoverGirl liquid makeup that launched in the early 1960s, along with that compressed powder, would contain acne-fighting ingredients, some of which would later be banned by the FDA because they were deemed unsafe. Interesting. In 1961, CoverGirl launched in light, medium, and dark, and the compressed powders were packaged in components that would alert the customer to which shade they were buying. So light was in white, medium was in, the medium component was in red, and then the dark shade was in a brown component. But later, CoverGirl would rebrand it as brunette. So as I mentioned before, the CoverGirl liquid makeup included skincare ingredients, more specifically, acne-fighting ingredients. Some of these ingredients included eucalyptus oil, clove oil, menthol, and camphor. And those ingredients are the telltale ingredients in Noxzema, the ones that give you that you just got smacked in the face by an elephant's ass. Noxzema included these particular ingredients so that they could support their claim that CoverGirl makeup was really good for the skin, quote unquote, and better than using nothing at all. In 1972, the Noxzema Corporation changed its name to the Noxell Corporation. Rumor has it that the name CoverGirl came from a woman named Carolyn Olbaum. She was a junior copywriter for the advertising agency that I mentioned earlier, and she felt that the name was appropriate because CoverGirl was appropriate because the word cover implied, makeup covered imperfections, and the word girl because the implication there was that they would be using beautiful female models to advertise their product. That CoverGirl created hype around the name and around their products was by hosting these co-ed makeup contests. And this was a way for, it kind of reminds me of America's Next Top Model, which is where they, would look for the next fresh face to be, the face of CoverGirl. And so they would, they would rely on this very, wholesome girl next door image. But they would also begin using mega model faces to sell their products. And interestingly, it took until the mid-60s for CoverGirl to add an additional shade to their range. So it went from creamy light, light, medium, and brunette. So they didn't go into the deeper realm. They went to the creamier, lighter realm. Something to know. Super interesting is that one way that CoverGirl tried to push their consumers to spend more money was by encouraging them to purchase multiple shades for what? To highlight and contour with. I was like, genius. They literally were teaching young girls about highlighting, covering, and contouring in the 1960s. I mean, it's funny, here in 2019, we're so vain thinking that we invented the wheel. We are absolutely just reformulating, repainting, respackling, We're not creating shit. CoverGirl added lipsticks to their portfolio in 1964. one way to get their consumers to spend more money was by encouraging them to purchase multiple shades of these new lipsticks so that they could create their own unique shades. Brilliant, I tell you, brilliant. So by the 1960s, sales of CoverGirl products far exceeded the sales of the Noxzema brand alone. So this sent a loud message all across the world that women, regardless of color, socioeconomic status, were willing to dig deep into their pockets in an effort to beautify themselves and were willing to spend their hard-earned dollars on makeup and skincare. It is widely believed that CoverGirl should be credited for the use of popular named models to sell products. And if you remember, if you were around in the 1980s, that was actually the late 1970s and well into the 80s when the birth of the supermodel occurred. A combination of television, radio, and print ads, CoverGirl would soon become a multi-billion-dollar industry. In 1975, CoverGirl had expanded its portfolio exponentially. In addition to foundation and compressed or pressed powders, it added loose translucent powders, blushers, lipstick, lip glosses, cream shadows, powder eyeshadows. I mean, they were doing the damn thing. And not only had they expanded their portfolio, but they were also expanding the types of makeup they were offering for different skin types. They recognized that a matte formula wasn't the only formula that was going to work for all women. So they introduced, in addition to a matte formula, they introduced a luminous formula for older, maturing skin. They also had a what do you call it? Like a clean range, which I thought was so interesting because I don't know why I associate clean makeup with a very 21st century thing, but no, it was around in the 1970s. 1981, the CoverGirl had a makeup line for regular skin, oily skin, and dry skin. Pretty fucking stellar. The first foreign branch of the Noxel company was opened in Britain in 1974. The first foreign branch of the Noxel Corporation was opened in 1964 in Britain. But by 1977, CoverGirl was being distributed in over 9 European countries. And by 1981, the Noxel Corporation was kicking out over $20 million a year in what? Advertising alone. Chew on that one. CoverGirl's outrageous success attracted the attention of none other than mega corporation. Come on, guess it. Procter & Gamble. And the reason why CoverGirl attracted the attention of Procter & Gamble is because Procter & Gamble didn't have any makeup in their portfolio. And in 2016, Coty purchased CoverGirl Cosmetics. All right, love bugs, and this is my final look. By the way, I used all CoverGirl products today. Products will be linked down below with links to Amazon. They are affiliate links. I do make a small commission. If you purchase through those links, it just helps me grow my channel. I have done my due diligence. So, what do you think? Do you approve? I like it. I like it. The foundation I used, what did I use? I used my TRUBLEND Matte Made. It's a fantastic foundation if you like super matte formulas. It's a little too matte for my liking. As you can see, it kind of, I don't know, it just kind of grabs onto all. Is there always a booger? It grabs onto my texture. It's not my favorite formula. I actually prefer the way that the clean matte foundation looked yesterday. I'm actually going to do a side-by-side comparison of these two one day. All right, let's talk. Some things that I walk away with. First of all, I hope you enjoyed. This is something that I would like to do with more frequency. I promise I will get better at it. I'm going to include in the the description box links to my resources, in addition to some, some additional reading that might be useful or entertaining for you. I would love to hear your feedback. Did you enjoy it? Did you learn something new? Something that stood out to me was Covergirl should be around 60 something years old. And a lot has changed technologically, socially, historically within those 6+ decades. And the question that's left in my mind is, and it's a question that I would pose to any board member, any team member that works, well, now it's with, the Coty Corporation, but that works specifically with the CoverGirl brand. Why did it take so long for inclusion, real inclusion, to become a part of the CoverGirl mission statement? Why did it take a gazillion different formulas, attending to luminous, mature, matte, clean skin? Your CoverGirl wanted to cover the market, cover all the bases, and to appeal to every skin type. But what about every skin tone? What about every cultural demographic, so that they too could feel included? And I'm talking about the palest of pale to the richest of rich and everything in between. It shouldn't have taken 60+ years for you to come up with a foundation line that had over 40 shades. I cannot applaud, nor should we be applauding these companies. We should be challenging them. We should remain educated, and the only way to do that is to go back to the beginning. And this is why I encourage you to stay informed, to ask questions, don't take anything at face value, and remember that there is power in your spending dollar, and you get to decide. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million or if you have $10, but how you choose to spend that last dollar that you have will make a difference in the end on the direction that these companies go in. And if you demand inclusivity, if it's something that's important to you as a human, as a citizen of this globe, then I challenge you. I challenge you to become informed. I challenge you to push back. I challenge you to ask questions. And I challenge you to demand that these companies do better to include every human of every shade, of every race, of every ethnicity across this beautiful globe of ours. We deserve it. I love you guys. Thank you for watching.